It's the biggest ever, 80,000 people registered, so morning arrival at this conference feels more like a major sporting event outside. Inside, an avalanche of climate-friendly pledges today, from the dubious to the deliverable. Two genuinely significant ones. First, 117 countries and counting promising to treble their wind and solar energy by 2030. China, US, EU and UK expected to be among them. So for once, key players able to talk about genuine progress.
Trebling global sustainable energy, wind and solar, by the end of the decade. We're going to do that, aren't we?
We really are. So countries are on the move, global north, south, east and west. So yes, we absolutely can increase by the 2/3.
Of course, this is the easy stuff. Capitalism drives this more than climate talks. Wind and solar not only clean, but ever cheaper than coal, gas and oil. Follow the money. Cue the professor, steering the UN body on climate change science.
If you just let the market sort itself out, there would be a big expansion of renewables anyway. But this trebling is actually stretching it, so that is absolutely a good thing. And governments now need to send signals to investors to make sure that that tripling actually happens. The basis of current policies, and that's things that are actually in the statute book, we're probably heading towards 2.93 degrees warming.
Because 2.93 degrees Celsius is a catastrophe.
It's frightening.
The White House, perhaps stung by criticism over Joe Biden's no-show here, dispatched Vice President Kamala Harris here overnight. They always come bearing gifts, in this case a plan to slash methane emissions from the US oil and gas industry, the biggest in the world.
Here she is.
And shutting down all US coal power stations by 2035, the third biggest coal power sector on Earth.
Around the world, there are those who seek to slow or stop our progress. Leaders who deny climate science, delay climate action, and spread misinformation. Corporations that greenwash climate inaction and lobby for billions of dollars in fossil fuel subsidies. In the face of their resistance, and in the context of this moment, we must do more.
US and Chinese climate envoys walking the floor, the two biggest polluting nations on Earth. Like all countries here, now facing talks about phasing out fossil fuel.
John, are we going to get a deal phasing down or phasing out?
Well, we'll certainly see where we are. I don't know today. If you're digging a hole and it gets too deep and you're not going where you want to go, first thing you got to do is stop digging. And the equivalency of stopping digging on this subject of climate is to stop emitting these poisonous gases that are destroying the planet.
Crowd-pleasing rhetoric, but his own vice president never mentioned phasing out fossil fuel in her speech. No accident. So pressure on the man with the mother of all conflict of interest. Oil boss who is expanding drilling, yet climate summit boss forced to consider phasing it out. Sultan Al-Jaber, the UN Secretary General, insists we must phase out fossil fuels. So,
Can you just give us your response? The Secretary General says that we must start phasing out fossil fuels.
I'm talking.
I just want to know what your response is to that, sir.
You wanna, I don't know.
Will you answer the question about phasing out fossil fuels?
Come to my press conference.
Okay, the press conference is in half an hour, guys.
there was a press conference, but he wasn't there to answer that question which looms large here. So we asked the man who's steering these talks, what does he think?
Secretary General talking about the need to phase out fossil fuels, phase out, nothing else will do. Is there any possibility we're going to get that here?
We have to try, and it's up to parties. Thank you.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres having a natter with Mia Mottley, widely tipped to succeed him.
We'll keep trying. Keep up the good work.
She then told us how the Global Compensation Fund, set up here for poor nations most affected by the climate crisis, now needs to raise realistic cash.
If you look down the line, you're not going to be able to meet the loss and damage of any country in the age of superlatives, because that's what we're living in with what is on the table. It's a start, but we need to have larger amounts, and we need to have, as I said, if oil and gas companies, which earned $4 trillion in profits last year, treat to 95% of their profits as 100%, and then give 5%, which is 200 billion. That's significantly more than anything that's in the loss and damage fund today.
So genuine details on compensation then. Growing momentum on trebling wind and solar this decade, but phasing down or phasing out fossil fuels remains a diplomatic mountain to climb.